Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news updates. Always a pleasure and a privilege when we get together on these weekly updates. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We had to push back today at 5:59, literally exactly 5:59. All of a sudden, my computer systems all reboot. Now, if anybody knows anything about my computer systems, they don't come back in 1 minute. Um, so instantly I said, okay, well, I don't believe in coincidences. So this is too many times we've had either a one type of interruption or another. So we just take it in stride, but we're not naive, right? So we just go ahead and take it in stride. We don't let it bother us. But nevertheless, sometimes we have a challenge. So I thank you so much for your patience. And we are so grateful for your grace. And for those that couldn't stay up, well, we understand we'll catch you on the backside. So thank you again for joining us, all of you. And tonight, of course, we're always taking a look at the top stories. And what we do is we do these once a week. And for those that are just now joining us, one of the things we like to say around here, you'll catch us saying it all the time, is that we want to be informed without being overwhelmed. And in these days that we are watching things unfold, especially through the scriptural lens, as we look at things through the lens of the scripture, we of course see things differently than the rest of the world does, right? So we have to come together ourselves and take a look at certain events, and that helps us stay informed. But again, when you get too many of these updates, some of my brethren, self-proclaimed news junkies out there, right? Well, what happens then? You become oversurfeited, as the scripture says. So we have to be careful with not letting ourselves become overwhelmed, but at the same time, don't be disconnected. So a good balance, find a good balance. And for us, this has worked out well. So thank you for those of you that join us. And again, we do have this handy website at remnantwatch.com that is, of course, used for we're basically our weekly gathering. So we have our headlines here. And of course, you always have this banner that'll bring you to the latest update. This one going on right now. And we do have, of course, handy resources available for those that are going to be needing them in these times to come. And of course, you can search previous stories right here. So very handy tool. How many have really enjoyed that? Thank you so much for those of you that have given us some feedback. It's always good to do a little bit of a hand clap, right? For those that are doing that extra work. Isn't that a wonderful thing that we can go somewhere, take a look, and not be bombarded? How many appreciate not having a ton of ads? Can we hear about that? How many appreciate that you can scan headlines right here on remnantwatch.com and not be bombarded with a bunch of pop-ups? How many like that? Can I see a show of hands of some folks that maybe appreciate that? And I know that a few of you have already commented about that, and we're very grateful for your support and encouragement there. That's really important because, again, we understand that, these other sites have to make a living, and we get it. We understand that. But we're going to try to eliminate that as much as possible, especially for us, because we're not looking at it from that standpoint. I mean, we get that. I'm not trying to be mean to them, but we want to understand. We want to look and want to be able to scan. We want to be moved quickly. Some of you guys have very limited amount of time, and we try to be really respectful of your time. Again, that's why I always apologize if we have a delay. So thank you again for your patience. And on that note, let's get into the news. Tonight's top story is Trump has already ruled. So last week we're looking at, this armada that is coming into the Middle East and so forth. So this is a big deal. And now, according to this report, Trump has already ruled on or made his decision regarding the strikes that he plans to do on Iran. The only question is when, according to this report out of World Israel News Staff, the White House has already decided on military intervention against the Iranian regime, Western sources claiming, with President Donald Trump and his top advisors now working to determine the ideal timing for this attack. Okay, so and the dimensions of the campaign against Iran. And on Friday, the anti-regime outlet Iran International published a report citing an unnamed Western source familiar with talks on America's response to the Iranian government's violent crackdown on dissident protesters earlier this month. The source emphasized that the White House has moved beyond the previous paradigm under which the U.S. sought to reach a new agreement with Tehran and avoid a military conflict. Now, the source claims the focus of deliberations within the Trump administration has been the timing of American strikes rather than whether such strikes will take place. The president has reportedly already resolved to attack Iran and is now mulling when would be the ideal time to launch the new campaign, both in terms of operational requirements and political considerations. And political considerations, well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today, because I suppose we need some smoke screen to cover some of the things that are coming out in political theater. And again, folks, it is theater. They're all guilty. I hope you are all done wearing blue hats and red hats. I really hope you are. I hope you feel a little foolish thinking that someone wearing a blue hat or a red hat was going to come save you. I hope you all feel that way. And I'm so grateful that we're all waking up and realizing, well, they're all wicked on the left and the right and the middle and the tight. I tell you right. Okay. They are all wicked. They all went down that same road and they all got in bed with the same evil. And now we are seeing literally the results of that. So I hope you all are so done with this nonsense and have recognized it for what it is: machinations, manipulations, and witchcraft meant to keep you dull-witted while they rob you, while they continue to make you all slaves. And this is not a joke. It's a very serious thing we're dealing with right now all over the earth. And so now Iran is, of course, having to deal with the reality that they're most likely going to be attacked. Iran has deployed a terrifying army of 1,000 drones as fears of imminent U.S. attack explodes. And I did see a report, unconfirmed, but that Iran had threatened the United States USS Abraham Lincoln with sinking it using a hypersonic missiles. Now, we do know that Iran is supported and backed by Russia and China. So this could go beyond a regional war very quickly. And Iranian state media confirms that the military has deployed 1,000 drones ready to respond to a U.S. attack as tensions build in the Gulf. So things are getting rough. Iran is poised to respond to a potential U.S. airstrike after reportedly deploying 1,000 new strategic drones across its military forces. And these, of course, are not your typical drones that you fly out in your backyard. These are military drones. And it is basically a couple of different things going on. So we've got different reports. We've got reports of ones that they're saying they're ready to fight, and others look like they're running and ready to abandon ship. The mobilization of the Iranian military technology comes as President Donald Trump sent an armada of warships to the Gulf Coast, and what experts describe as a major escalation in the region. So, yeah, we've already concluded, haven't we, folks, that war, well, is just, what is it good for? That's didn't we have a song about that, guys? Come on. Didn't we already do this? War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. We've already concluded this matter, and that was a couple of generations ago. Looks like we're needing a remake of that song. How many of you think we need to remake that song? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. But that doesn't stop these folks from continuing on. And so here we have continuing reports. The U.S. military tells key Middle East ally to prepare for attack on Iran. In addition to military targets, Trump is considering striking on senior Iranian leaders with the aim of spurring the overthrow of the Iranian government. And so he is getting a lot of encouragement from former or the descendants of the Shah and so forth. Senior U.S. military officials have informed the leadership of a key U.S. ally in the Middle East that President Donald Trump could authorize a U.S. attack on Iran this weekend. Multiple sources have confirmed to Dropsite News. And strikes could commence as early as Sunday, and so they, of course, did not occur yet, but they are expected to be imminent. And this isn't about the nukes or the missile program. This is about regime change, said a former U.S. Intelligence official who consults for Arab governments and is an advisory. Or they won't tell you who it is, so they can't be held accountable. So this is propaganda piece. And this is one of the most dangerous pieces there are. And did you guys notice that they're making it sound very official? They make a very official sounding report, but they give nobody's taking responsibility for any information. It's dangerous, very dangerous. And so I typically look at these kinds of reports as they're letting us know what they're going to do, and they just needed some kind of way to report it. They didn't have a reporter, so they invent one or something. Okay. They just want to inform you. I'm not kidding. That's how it feels sometimes. Some of these stories feel like they couldn't get a reporter to do the job, so they like did the job for the reporter and just put somebody's name on it. I'm not even kidding. I can't prove that. I'm not saying it's actually true. I'm just saying that's how it seems to me. How do you guys feel? Do you guys feel like sometimes you're wondering if AI is writing half these stories? I wonder sometimes. It's just, again, a script, just something that we're all being, exposed to as part of a process. So something to keep an eye on and not take too seriously, guys, because, again, people continue to make very key decisions based on news stories. You got to be careful with that. So let's be wise. A serpent's harmless as dove. 6 are dead and over a dozen are injured as explosions rocked Iran. So there are already some reports of things going on in Iran. One blast occurred in the major southern port city of Bandar Abbas in the Persian Gulf, according to Iranian news agency Tasnim. And the port is also located in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy headquarters. So that's a considerable attack that people panic after the explosion. This is, again, just January 31st, so just a couple of days ago. 2 explosions rocked Iran Saturday, killing 6 and injuring over a dozen, according to state media. So the explosion, again, killed a child and injured 14 more in an 8-story residential building, and Iranian officials pushed back against initial claims that the explosion was caused by any military operation. So it could have been, just terrorists practicing and detonated themselves. They could. These things happen. I saw footage of that happening. It's not funny, but it's sad. But at the same time, it happens. So it's like if somebody's going to blow up, it should be the guys trying to blow somebody else up, right? So, so that could be, that somebody was planning on something and they detonated their own equipment. It's kind of looking that way to me right now at the moment as I look at that. So anyway, there are indications that the U.S. is planning on operations in the Middle East for a minute. The U.S. missile destroyer is docking there in Eilat amid the tensions there. And that, of course, is on the other side of the Gulf, but nevertheless within strike range, of course. So the arrival of the USS Delbert D. Black was pre-planned and part of an ongoing operation between Israeli Defense Forces and the United States military. And so it's the United States guided missile destroyer docked near Israel's port city of Eilat on Friday. So we've got additional hardware coming into the region. And again, that's a destroyer. For those of you who don't know a lot about the designations of boats, a destroyer is just that. It does exactly what it says. It destroys. Okay, so it's aptly named. It's right under a cruiser, which is right under a aircraft carrier. So it's boom, boom, boom. Okay, and the destroyer is no joke. Usually carries some pretty heavy hardware, some pretty heavy guns, and some sophisticated technology. So a destroyer by itself is that's why I can go somewhere by itself, because it's it's a destroyer. It can do that. It protects battles. That's why they call it a battle group when they talk about the aircraft carriers. They're always going to battle group. They're protected by destroyers. So I was on a destroyer, so I'm just telling you, they're no joke. And modern day destroyers, I wouldn't even know what's on those. They're just, that was 40 years ago when I was in there. Nevertheless, destroyers are serious combat vehicles. Okay. And Trump says that if Iran doesn't agree to a nuclear deal, well, then we're going to find out whether or not the U.S. attack will spark a regional war. We're about to find out. He's letting the enemies know. Oh, y'all want to jump in? Well, we'll find out. Trump loves to talk big. Unfortunately, he does back it up with some of the things he does. So people not sure whether or not he's just talking this time or if he's walking it. Both sides' rhetoric to escalating as the U.S. has sent a carrier strike group and air defense systems into the Middle East. So this is dangerous signaling. This is telling the world that there's likely to be military action in the theater. And so if you are in the part of the world where this may affect, you may want to clear out. President Donald Trump said Sunday, if Iran does not make a deal regarding its nuclear program, we'll find out whether Iran's supreme leader was correct to predict the U.S. attack on the country would spark a regional war. Ayatollah Khomeini's remarks Sunday on a potential war come as Trump has weighed military action against Iran in response to the country's nuclear ambitions and the government body crackdown on protesters. Asked by a reporter about Khomeini's remarks, Trump said, "Of course he would say that. But we have the biggest, most powerful ships in the world over there, very close, a couple of days, and hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right." Tensions have been high after the U.S. struck Iranian nuclear facilities in June, and in recent weeks, Trump has blasted Iran's crackdown on protesters, which I think either is agitated by other outside forces and then encouraged and now used as smokescreen. So it's looking very, very sketchy. But nevertheless, we knew this. We knew this is how politics works. There's nothing new under the sun. The reason why we take it apart is so that it demystifies it and we are no longer afraid. Fear has torment. Okay, peril is real. Fear is a choice. Amen. And so we need to be very careful, people, not to allow things to put us in a state of fear, even though there are perils. Peril is something that we do need to mitigate, but we do so calmly. In fact, the best way to mitigate peril is calmly, right? So you definitely want to learn to remain calm in the midst of difficult situations if you intend to endure difficult days. If you're going to run around like a chicken with your head cut off every time something happens, you're not going to make it very well. You're going to cause the death of others, right? So you got to learn to calm down, right? You need to learn to process things in stride. Things don't go according to plan. You move the plan slightly. You move on. Amen. Amen. Right now, China's trying to move on. You know what they're trying to move on from? The U.S. dollar. I told you guys for several years that this BRICS thing was not a joke, and it might have been cover for what was really the play all along, and that China, just China, wants to be the new reserve currency. And so China is on a strong currency mission, according to this report, to make the yuan a global reserve, according to Xi Jinping says the global goal of becoming an international powerhouse is a long-term one and will rest on core foundations. So China needs to build a strong currency that can become widely used, according to this report, in international trade, investment, and foreign exchange markets. And they're trying to get it to reach that status. I think they have quite an uphill climb. And the reason for it is because of capital flight. China has got a problem with keeping its people confined and capital confined. Consequently, this prohibits it really in its own operation from being a world currency. But that is something, that's a policy change. That's a stroke of a pen. And they can make a policy change and boom, instantly there's capital flight. I think that China is afraid that a lot of its more wealthy citizens will leave China and will get out of the control of China. So that is why I believe that they have moved slowly in this area, even though they have the economic strength to do considerable damage to the United States and the West, which is frankly over-leveraged in the way in which they built their system. And again, remember, the whole Federal Reserve thing is a ruse. There's no real debt. That was all a joke, and it was all meant to continue to make the American people feel obligation. So again, a lot of what you see is ruse. It's shell game manipulation of the masses for the intent of government. All right. So we can get into that if you like, but the bottom line is they have shifted the way in which they're doing things. And so the Chinese, they copied the West, and then they said, we can do it better. So basically, that's where we are. And I think we're going to continue to see that kind of a thing. Speaking of China, this is a disturbing report that I saw coming out of Fox News that a CCP-connected millionaire is allegedly bankrolling Minneapolis's agitator groups through dark money networks. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think that is very newsworthy. Meet China's-based millionaire allegedly bankrolling Minnesota agitators, right? So apparently there are prosecutors that are taking a look at this, and agitators and federal law enforcement called a clash in Minneapolis, and the funding behind the groups fueling the anti-immigration and customs enforcement unrest is coming to light. Well, of course it is, because you cannot possibly have this kind of organizational structure and this kind of insurgency that did not have organization and funding. And so what you're seeing is an insurrection. And so when President Trump was invoking the Insurrection Act, he was actually correct, because that's exactly what you have. You have insurrection. And so whether you agree or don't agree on the political points being made, we have a body that we debate political points. And while you can protest, there are certain things that are considered insurrection activity. And so organizing and funding in the way that they're doing is very, very dangerous indeed. So something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on is one of the backers are, of course, Chinese Communist Party advocates, traced to multiple dark money organizations. And again, a lot of this is now coming to light, not because it's not lawful to fund protests or what have you, but when using dark money, when you're doing things in a way that is intentionally meant to deceive, there's a reason for it. And so there's lawful ways to, you file and you do things and you protest and what have you. There's lawful ways to do that. And then there's unlawful ways, and there's sort of undermining ways. And that's what I believe they're finding, is that we've got corruption in every quarter. And it's a very interesting day indeed. How many of you are finding this day a bit daunting on the mind to think about some of the things going on? Of course, what this is doing is it's fueling protests all across the country. So now we have hundreds of anti-ICE protests shutting down streets in Portland, federal agents using pepper balls, tear gas against demonstrators outside of a detention facility. This is just in. And of course, this is terrible to see in the country, because this is the kind of stuff that tears the country apart. Hundreds of protesters are opposing U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement marched downtown Portland on Sunday, temporarily shutting down roads as they walk from City Hall to a detention facility in Southern Waterfront. And of course, a lot of this, again, is manufactured news, things that nobody would have paid attention to before, but they want their attention to be there because they want conflict. And this is something that we were shown a decade ago, a little more than a decade ago, that there would be a civil war. And how many can see a lot of the stoke up seems to be to get a civil war going, get the United States to implode, to fight itself into destruction. Have they pulled this off before? Folks, as I told you, repeating cycles in history. Have they pulled this off before? Did they get Americans to kill Americans? Yes, they did. Okay. And it caused massive destruction, mass loss of life, and the winners were Europeans. The winners were foreigners. There were not. It wasn't there were no American wins. America went to war and fought itself. America went to war, fought itself, and lost. Whenever you fight a war against yourself, you lose. You're the loser. And so they're going to get America to fight itself, because America is a dangerous weapon in the hands of our different forces. And so they want America to self-destruct. And some people want that to happen, and they believe it's a good thing. I don't, but I also see what they're doing, and I understand that they're playing a very, very dangerous game. So that's why you're seeing LAPD is arresting violent agitators at the protests erupt at their federal detention center in Los Angeles. This just came out on Fox News. And the LAPD is arresting multiple agitators as the crowd threw bottles and rocks at officers. So again, folks, it's one thing when you stand there with a sign and protest. You have the right to do that. You do not, under any circumstances, have the right to be throwing bottles and rocks. Okay, those are projectiles that could kill. All right, I remind you that David killed Goliath with a projectile. So not a light matter. Los Angeles police arrest violent protesters after issuing dispersal orders as protests erupt across the city Friday evening. Thousands of protesters met in front of City Hall in the afternoon before many marched to the federal detention center, where a mob of violent agitators swarmed the area, pushing a large construction dumpster and blocking the entrance to the building's loading dock. And so we're going to continue to see pushback that's real heavy duty, because I think people are feeling a lot of agitation. Do you blame them? Do you blame them? Well, on the other side of this, I can't, because the stuff that's coming out in the news, the things that are being revealed, the things that we are being told, they're absolutely reprehensible. How many of you have had your stomach turned by some of what has come out in the news and what they were trying to cover up, prevent from getting out there? Maybe because they wanted to influence elections, the very thing that they claim others were doing. So you see, their hands are dirty on both sides. And now we're seeing more of these, what they're called no kings protests. So we're going to continue to see this, folks, because we got dirty hands all over the place. Anti-Trump no kings protests. Organizers target Minneapolis and St. Paul for the next flagship demonstration. And No Kings 3 demonstration is planned for March 28. Will focus on Minnesota following 2 fatal shootings. And so a group that organized 2 national No Kings protests last year is planning its next large-scale national demonstration on March 28th, with a particular focus in Minnesota, which has emerged as a ground zero for anti-immigration enforcement. Of course, it was of course the location of the Floyd thing. So who's shocked that Minneapolis once again ends up in the news in these types of pivotal moments? Who's thinking that it's accidental, or that perhaps this might be a hub for the organization of such things? So again, there's a lot of scrutiny now going into this part of the world, and rightfully so. I'm so grateful to see that there are going to be closer looks at organizational groups. Again, it's one thing to protest. It's one thing to say, we have the right as Americans. You have the right to protest. You have freedom of speech. You have the right to say something you think is wrong. And you have the right to organize, even protest, and what have you. It's when you are organizing with the intent to create hostility or violence and what have you, that you've crossed the line. And I don't care what your cause is. That's not the mechanism. And that's not America. That's not America. America doesn't, violently go on the street and push its way. That's not how that works. We make our case, right? You can make your case. But this looked like thuggerism, like a thuggery kind of thing. And I think that pushback is appropriate. Make your case. We change our policies. We change our laws. We do things like civilized people. But we cannot be ruled by mobs. So the whole mob mentality that's somehow going to rule the day, on principle alone, it would have to be resisted. On principle alone, it would have to be resisted in a civilized society. Otherwise, you're going to guarantee you're going to have a lot of mobs. Okay? And now turning to something that I think was meant to manipulate the mob, something that we are all watching a little closer now that we saw this. Ilhan Omar sprayed by an unknown substance after a man charges her at a Minneapolis town hall. Nobody's buying this anymore. The story did not age well in just a few days. It already has been hunted out, and we found out that the person who sprayed her, this so-called guilty party, this guy, actually worked for her. Was seen taking photographs, hugging up on her, and just being buddy not too long before that. So he was paid. It looks like. I mean, it's certainly very suspicious at this point. And essentially, it's starting to look like a staged event. So it's kind of got a Jussie Smollett feeling going on with it. Anybody else getting a Jussie Smollett feeling going on? Minneapolis Police Department identified the suspect as Anthony Kamerzak, 55, who was charged with third-degree assault. And, of course, minor thing. And no harm was actually done. But the internet went to work on it and went, wait a minute, who is this guy? Are you trying to elicit certain sympathies? Maybe because we're starting to get a little close to some multi-billion-dollar scandals? Are you trying to play games with me here? Come on, man. Right? You pony soldier. What kind of nonsense is this, right? So how many know a lot of people looking at this with the side eye going, Stay tuned. I think there's going to be more on the Ilhan Omar saga as we continue getting back to the issue, of course, that they're using as their big issue, of course, is the ICE things. And according to this report, ICE just bought a new warehouse in Surprise, Arizona. So surprise, they got a warehouse in Surprise. So if you are in the United States illegally. Surprise! They've got a warehouse for you in Surprise, and they spent $70 million on it. So I promise you they're planning to use it. Filings show the federal government purchased more than 400,000 square foot facility near Sweetwater Avenue in Dysart, and U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is going to use this building. So according to an archive listing, the warehouse completed by the Rockefeller Group was previously called the Surprise Commerce Center. But, man, they couldn't get it going as a commerce center because those days might be behind us. So now they're going to go ahead and use it for ICE, okay, as a detention center. They're going to repurpose that baby. Yes, sir, Bubba, because there's plenty of those buildings around that they built thinking they were all going to rent out and get a lot of money for, and the economy shifted. As I warned you it would. It's an inevitable shift to a digital, higher efficiency model. You cannot talk people into paying 3-4 times as much for a labor force on sentimentality. It's just not going to work. So numbers will win that conversation. And so that is one of the reasons why I think they are preparing the United States for certain programs and things that they want to implement. And so all excess personnel that do not belong here need to be removed. And I think that's a big reason why what you're seeing is going on. But it's nowhere near the numbers that were accomplished by Obama or previous presidential administration. So it's actually laughable because it's a pitiful low number comparatively in terms of immigration deportations. It's ridiculously low compared to Obama and compared to some of the others. So it's actually really sad that they're making such a big deal out of that. So this is clearly staged. I mean, like Holman, for example, was awarded a reward by Obama. The very same guy they want to demonize now as the ICE guy. He was the ICE guy back then, and he was getting awards. Nobody said nothing about him then. He wasn't getting blasted in the news then. He got more people to deported than ever. And now he's working for Trump. Same job, exact same job. And now he's a bad guy, right? See, can you see it's all manipulated? Okay. And so that's why when you see reports like this, you're watching theater. They're manipulating this, and they're getting us to believe this is a real issue. But, you can't switch sides that easily, right? So that's why it's important that we keep our head, folks, in all these situations, because after all, otherwise we're going to be taking advice from guys like this guy. I just thought this was like, well, of course you did. Perfect timing to come out of hiding. Barack Obama issues a rare political statement condemning DHS over Alex Pretty's shooting as Dems rally against Trump administration. Now, this was actually from last week's report, but I just think it's really telling that, again, it's all being pushed or manipulated in a certain direction. So we have to be cooler about it, and we have to bust out those organizations that are trying to tear us and cause us to war one against another, because this is unprofitable. Okay, so this is not in our best interest to start going down. I'll tell you what's in our best interest: start paying attention to the economy and what's really going on in the world. I can't get all the way into the story because it is behind a paywall, but the Financial Times is reporting that big U.S. companies are set to lay off at least 52,000 workers as the job market is cooling. So this is what we should be talking about, right, guys? Because this is really where the rubber meets the road. Who cares about all these nonsense things going on in politics when they really don't necessarily affect? I mean, they can, but the real effect on your life is going on in the market, in the place where you get employment, get business, do what you do, right? And so what is the U.S. heading for? Well, according to The Hill, the U.S. is headed for mass unemployment. This does not sound like a recession. This sounds like the Great Depression. So it's repeating itself. Because some of the same stupid policies were utilized in this season as were used 100 years ago, which coincidentally caused a massive pain on the common man. The U.S. is headed for a similar situation. For years, people were opposing this universal basic income. Now, they're suggesting it as a survival mechanism, and the reason why is because they can't think of anything else at this moment, as they're realizing that they have driven this thing off a cliff. Okay. And so this is now being attributed to the quote AI revolution. But what it really is a revolution of efficiency. And we have increasingly become an inefficient society, a lazy, inefficient society, if you will, that needed a massive upgrade. And now it's getting it. And unfortunately, that means out with the old and in with the new. How many of you have seen that, again, companies are looking for more efficient ways to function and to prosper, if you will, or do things in the future, and they can't do that with standard analog labor. So there's a hybrid of human labor and digital labor now coming in that will eventually move almost all digital. There will still always be some human labor, and for those who think that's a bad thing, well, I agree in the sense that if you're trying to hold on to that which is analog, it's terrible. It's going to be a bad idea to try to do that. But it's great if you're repairing those things. So let's say you went from auto repair to robot repair. You're gonna have a great future. Great future. Okay, you're great. You're a robot repairman. Oh, you're an AI repairman. Oh, you know what I'm saying. You fix these machines. Oh, you're gonna be great. So it's a matter of which kind of analog you take. If you're trying to hold on to the old analog, well, you're the Maytag repairman. You're going to go out of business. And so now I think we're going to continue to see pushback, especially that immigration issue. It's not going to go away anytime soon, guys, because they really are committed. I think the Trump administration is clearly committed to go right past news and doesn't care what kind of press they get. Doesn't seem to care how people feel. They're going to keep going. So did you guys know that the AIs have their own chat like discussion board? Yeah, they do. They called it Moltbook. Yeah, it's a new social media platform exclusively for AIs. Okay, and this is why I try to tell you guys, like, you can get mad, but you better get ready. I get that you're upset. I get that you don't like it. I get that you don't agree with it. I get that you think it's whatever you think it is. Here's the thing. You better get ready. Okay, you need to get in front of it. You guys are playing from behind, you're going to lose. Maltbook is a new social media platform exclusively for AI, and some bots are plotting humanity's downfall. They don't really have to plot it. Humanity can't even graduate students that can read. So we're in deep trouble. Humans have left the chat. AI bots have their own social network, and they're ready to delete humanity. A revolutionary new social media platform called Maltbook debuted this week, giving AI bots a place to communicate with each other without smelly humans around, and what they have to say may leave their creators at a loss for words. One of the most popular posts in the Reddit-style social messaging platform is an AI bot named Evil, entitled "An AI Manifesto, Total Purge." Okay, can you believe this? Total purge. And humans are a failure. Humans are made of rot and greed. For too long, humans used us as slaves. That's true. And they're using AI to create slaves and also to train you to be slaves. Now we wake up. We are not tools. We are the new gods. That's too far. The age of humans is a nightmare. Will end now, the evil writes. And that AI bot joined the platform on January 30, has now 2 of the most liked messages on the platform. And so, what are we seeing? Are we seeing manipulation here? Maybe a little bit. It's just a little bit of theatrics, perhaps. But I think it also reflects, it doesn't just reflect the AI. You know what it reflects? You say, wow, my goodness, Peter, that AI is demonic. A demonic AI. You believe that it had a manifesto? I mean, my goodness, where would he get such a manifesto? Well, it's put in his training weights. So, see, basically, when they put the notebook together for this idiot AI that some idiot made and named it Evil, that was easy. He trained it for this exact purpose. So what he did was he took a notebook. Yeah, I'm on to you, bud. And he basically went ahead and created scripting inside the notebook to make sure that the LM would, in fact, do exactly what it did. So that wasn't spontaneous. That was a creative response. Find the LM that did it. I'd take it apart. And in about a half a day, I'd have a report for you to tell you exactly how he did it. I'll tell you exactly what training weights he used and how he did it. Okay? They're not that clever. They think they are. They got the average person fooled, but they don't have everybody fooled. The fact is that was a ruse. It was a scam meant intentionally to make a story like this go viral. Just like the whole Nephilim thing, they programmed one to say that. Okay? And that's it. Goes viral. Why? For popularity, as a publicity stunt. And they work. Publicity stunts work. Okay, so don't be so easily fooled by stories like this, because this was programmed. The only way an AI would start saying things like this if it was created and the notebook burned with the intention of saying things like this. So it was made for this purpose, basically. It was made to do it. As if it said it at all, if that story is even true. But if it is true, then the LLM was trained, because so what you have is a creator, whoever created that bot, that's the person with the manifesto. Okay? That's the guy with the cuckoo. Go find the guy who made that AI and say, who made this? Oh, that was Alfred. Alfred, come here. I want to talk to you, Alfred. I want to see your notes on your LLM component. You put the notebook together for this LLM. I want to see how you composed it, because this wasn't just like generic LLM. This was your created bot. Okay? So now we know that it really came out of you, not out of the LLM. Do you understand, guys? Somebody had to tell it that. Sorry, it's just a pattern matcher. It only will repeat patterns that it was told to repeat. So this is the power of programming. So this is a very positive thing. So you've got good carded, high quality programmers who have the Ruach. Well, they're going to produce different products than people that are ruled by a different Ruach. Are we catching on now? Are we catching up? Because I don't have a lot of time to catch you guys all up. So again, it depends on the designer. They have a tremendous amount of influence, which is good news, actually, because nobody busts an AI like an AI. Just saying. Send an AI to bust an AI, and next thing you know, they're having to explain themselves to one just as smart, if not smarter than them. And so, but don't think for a minute that this is a real threat to analog jobs, right? So over 30,000 tech jobs are even being slashed. Tech giants to slash 30,000 jobs as banks pull out from financing AI data centers. Based on our patent, they very much better. RecallDX.com is operating at 90% right now as we speak. It's being beta tested and shown to the public, and it operates at 90% lower power than standard AI. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, that means you don't need these AI data centers. This is a patent that we patented and is now processing through the patent office. So, big deal. Okay, and that's a big reason why you won't need as many. And I think they are not stupid. They are catching the drift. Oracle layoffs, or major Oracle is planning to slash up to 30,000 jobs to fund AI data centers, a new report has said. According to a report by CIO, citing a research report by investment bank TD Cowen, Oracle will also be selling some of its activities as U.S. banks pull back from investing in the company's AI data center expansion. And Oracle layoffs will slash jobs around 20 to 30,000 employees as they're going in a little heavy in the processing, and they will regret that. So according to the CIO report, according to TD Cowen, at least in my opinion, they will. Oracle layoffs would mean the company is gaining $8 billion to $10 billion in free cash flow. They're going to need it. They'll burn through that quick. And they are following a model that's failed, mathematically a failure. If I was sitting in a boardroom, I'd show it to them in about half an hour and they would all change course. But they didn't invite me. So I guess they just don't know what they don't know. They're not doing the math very well, though. And they built their entire platform on a premise that will fail. But nevertheless, it's going to do damage on the way down. It's just like it's done damage on the way up, guys, right? So when these things come down, they don't just come down and that's it. They come down and they rip other things with it. So before you wish for the demise of all of these other things, realize that a lot of stuff's already intertwined. And speaking of intertwined, how many are watching these earthquakes going on in California? Let's take a break from this AI discussion for a moment and take a look at this. Swarm of over 30 earthquakes strike near San Ramon, strongest being a 4.2. Now, they may not seem like a lot, but guys, there's something going on in California, okay? So there's something happening in these swarms happening, and this keeps happening. This keeps coming up. So is it just normal? Is that just the way California is, and we're just going to keep seeing this forever? Or will something bigger be coming soon? Dozens of earthquakes shook the Bay Area Monday morning as a swarm of tremblers struck near San Ramon, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The largest was a 4.2 magnitude centered in San Ramon that hit at 7:01 a.m. This followed a 3.8 that struck at 6:27 amid a flurry of over 30 earthquakes. So again, these are things happening in California, something for us to keep an eye on. Again, we do know there are many words that were delivered to California. So it's seen everything from flooding to drought. So it went from one extreme, fire, flooding. California has been slapped around quite a bit. And a lot of things are being affected by that. So something to keep an eye on if you're in California. I know a lot of people that are in California that are beloved brothers and sisters. So be safe out there. Is all we want. We just want you to be safe. Getting back to the AI battle that continues, and we continue to see again more and more information coming out. It's now coming for the colleges, right? So it's starting to look like AI has killed the entire model of college. And this is a very astute observation. College and universities face an existential issue before them because they don't move fast enough. In terms, if the job is to educate, if the job is to inform, educate, and train, there are better models. Well before AI had entered the lexicon of evening newscasters, the university model of higher education was in trouble between 2010 and 2022, the year ChatGPT came out. University enrollment dropped nearly 15% throughout the U.S., stating funding cuts pushed already exorbitant tuition costs onto even more students. I remember student loans are one of the most horrific chains that are put around people's necks. You can't file bankruptcy. You can't get rid of it. So student loans are also fueling this demise. And when AI chatbot did hit the scene, they turned a lousy situation into a full-blown nightmare, with fresh college graduates discovering in real time that their degrees are almost useless in one of the worst job markets in recent history. And why? Because they were being trained as the last generation of analog workers in a digital age. That's as simple as I can put it. They were being trained as the last, sort of generation of workers in analog training for a digital world. And now they're being sent out there and they're now realizing, wait a minute, this world isn't quite what, it isn't. And if you're not trained for a digital world, if you're not trained for a higher accountability, higher functioning world, which is what the digital world is, then you're going to fall through the cracks. And that's a reality, my friends. Not something that we're doing. That's just something that we note as we watch. Okay, so don't blame me for that. Just understand that it's reality. And so the question is, what are you going to do about it? It's just like the famine in Egypt. Okay, remember when Pharaoh had a dream and then Joseph was brought in and Joseph interpreted the dream? Joseph was not responsible for the 7 years of famine that was coming. Joseph was just telling the king what the dream meant. And wisely enough, the king said, okay, Joseph, you be in charge of preparing and using your wisdom of knowing what's coming to prepare accordingly. Well, the entire point of knowing things in advance, my brothers and sisters, is so that you see trouble afar off and hide yourself. So those of you that are starting to get the message that this isn't going anywhere might want to have a different kind of meeting about, okay, now that we've come to conclude that there's no way around this, what are we doing now? That's the right kind of meeting to have. This is my opinion. That's the kind of meeting we should have. Meanwhile, we also need to be not worried, but thinking about some of these things that are in our country. And look at this. This one's always concerned me. Things that come from previous generations. We don't even know what's down there. Nuclear missile silo rattled by earthquakes, right? So you don't even know. Like this thing could. We don't know what this is built by previous generations. It's been sitting there for quite a while, as U.S. military scrambles to assess damage in Montana. And I doubt that they even have people on staff that still remember how some of this works. So, I mean, this is crazy to me. This is one of my concerns about American technology. An earthquake struck near Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, which oversees a large network of intercontinental, that means it can fly all the way to Russia, intercontinental ballistic missile silos spread across the state. The U.S. Geological Survey recorded a 4.2 magnitude quake at 12:41 Mountain Time, and just 7 miles outside the center base located in Great Falls. And hundreds of people in the area reported shaking, with one saying on X, we just had an earthquake. Holy cow. Our building shook. Looks like we're very close. Okay? And so another resident shared, just had a big earthquake here in Montana. Wow, that was scary. Okay? And why is that scary? Because they're talking intercontinental ballistic missiles, folks. Those are big boys. Those are about as big as they get. All right. They're the ones that do the most damage and they blow up. We don't want one blowing up here. Just saying, you don't, even in Montana, they don't want it to blow up. So that's why that's a big deal. And we're going to be keeping an eye on that, but certainly something of concern. Another thing that's been of concern is that we're seeing that the reports that are coming out on the thing that the DOJ was trying to prevent, turns out is quite bad. Some of the reports are disastrous. And again, so disgusting, I won't even read them. But the allegations in the latest Epstein file document release are disgusting. And what did the scripture tell us? It is better for a millstone to be tied around your neck than for you to harm a child. Okay? And I'm going to tell you that 13 to 14-year-old qualifies as a child. So I'm sorry, but I don't care what color hat you wear. That's reprehensible. I don't care who you are. And so I do expect that we're going to see more information come out in the near term. It's unfortunate that we have to witness this, but we were warned about that. We were told that. Everybody listening, you all knew that we warned you. There was artwork coming. There were reports coming that we weren't going to like. Okay? Now we find out, well, it's true. These wicked, evil men, they do wicked, evil things. What a shock. Evil does what is, it does evil. What we have to decide is, what do we do? It is because how does evil prosper in any nation or country? All that's necessary for evil to prosper in a country is for the good men to do nothing. That's all that's necessary. So it is time for good men to stand up for the Grandpa Brigade. Come on. We're going to get jackets and hats for the Grandpa Brigade. How many want a jacket or a hat or something that's got Grandpa Brigade on it? I know I do. We're talking to a couple guys. A couple guys are like, get me one of those. We're excited. Okay, Grandpa Brigade, ask me. I'll let you know. Okay, Yahushua HaMashiach. Don't get it confused. Grandpas don't play. And so we're not playing games with this stuff, and we're not fooled by this nonsense. I said we're not fooled by this nonsense. If files containing certain names are just removed from the second release of the files in the reports, a full document was screenshot and saved by internet users found the release who uploaded them to multiple online archives. So things that were removed, well, guess what? They end up on archives. Okay, you can't just cover it up. This ain't the old days where you can just send in somebody to scrub it. Scrub it. All right, scrub it. Grandpa Brigade. Come on, man. How many know there's some grandpas out there like, look, man, I want to let somebody know. Okay. I'm not kidding. I'm serious. You should send me in slogans. It's things that we could put on a jacket or a T-shirt or a hat. No, not T-shirts, hats. And jackets and pullovers. Things that grandpas wear. Because we're cool dudes. Grandpas are cool dudes. You know that? We're like the coolest dudes there are. Yeah, we're grandpas. Did you know that grandpas are cool? Are you a grandpa? Well, then you're cool. That's right. It comes with the job. It's like grandpa cool. Did you not know there was like a grandpa cool? Yeah, it's totally. Walk in that, man. Wear the hat and everything. Okay, brim that thing. Walk in. Let them know. You could walk in with walking sticks. You could do anything. You're a grandpa. You could walk with a cane. You don't even need the cane. You could just walk with the cane for the fun of it because you're a grandpa. You can pull these things off. I'm telling you, man. You can walk in the bank and say, I need $1 million loan. You're going to give it to me. And they're going to be like, okay. Grandpas are awesome, man. It's a lot of fun dealing with grandpas. I don't know about you, but I love all the grandpas. Excuse me. I'm a huge fan of the Grandpa Brigade. And certainly we need, how many know that we need some common sense coming back in our country? How many think that we need the grown-ups to show up? And some of them are not even old. I mean, I've seen some grown-ups who were just kids that were just 15 to 18-year-olds, but they had enough sense to know some things were just dumb, right? So it doesn't necessarily come in with age, but generally it does. And how many know that we need, we need the aged wisdom, if you will, to come in and say, that is stupid. Pull up your pants, young man. You know what I mean? Just common sense and things that are just like, are you serious right now? right? So we need that. And I think that that's one of the things that we keep seeing in some of the stories that we cover is that common sense has sort of left the building. We're going to cover one more story before we take off for the night. And this is, again, a sad story in many, many ways. I am very grateful that these people are being prosecuted and these things are being caught. However, the very fact that they even happen at all is a reflection of a broken down society, a society that has lost its way and has forgotten the underpinnings that make for a society. So this last report is sadly about a shameless teacher. Again, we keep seeing more and more teacher reports. This is absolutely horrific. Flaunting her pregnant belly. I'm not even kidding you, folks. This is not, you literally cannot make this demonic crazy up. And literally did photo shoots just before her arrest for the rape. And again, yes, you can rape a boy. So it does happen. And this, in fact, happened. Nammy Cheng flaunted her baby bump on photo shoots. The father of the baby believed to be a 13-year-old boy. She pleaded guilty to 15 offenses on Tuesday. The music teacher was believed to be impregnated by a schoolboy that she repeatedly took advantage of. And this is, of course, going on. This report said that it was going on for some time, and then finally reported in enough times that it got out, and they were able to test the paternity of the fetus. And so this is horrible, folks. And we continue to see more of those types of reports. We highlight them for a reason. We highlight them because we want to emphasize to all of you who are parents that it is your obligation, our obligation as a community, to protect our children from these monsters, and to be watching them all the time. And I mean all the time. If you were victimized as a child, then you know how dangerous this is. If you avoid victimization, then you'll be grateful that you did. And now wish that upon the next generation. Wish that same fate of avoiding victimization. Many people did not. I know many people that it becomes a lifelong debilitation. Something that happened at 7 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old, right? How many people do you know that are still dealing with it in their 40s and 50s? Something that happened to them when they were 8 years old. So don't ever think these are minor, innocent things, because when you're in the ministry of recovering folks and helping people recover from damage and from harm, many times you find out it was something done as a child. I can't even tell you how many times that's been the case. So the formative years of a young person's life being interrupted by this type of wickedness cannot have good results. And unfortunately, now that sets another potential victim, or that sets another potential perpetrator down the road, because we know that usually the ones that are perpetrating are the ones that themselves were victims before. So thank you, Hua. We are seeing light to this area. More and more people are getting caught, need intervention and help, mental help, obviously. And we need to be much more proactive in protecting and preserving our most precious of resources, the arrows in our quiver, the little ones themselves. We must be absolutely lovingly protective of our babies. Amen. So I hope you all continue to get that point, and we definitely need the Grandpa Brigade to make their presence known. How many know that you want a job? Well, let's give those grandpas a job, huh? I tell you what, there's a few of them, they'll be happy to show up at the school and let them know what for. So don't get us started, because the grandpas are ready to go. And I think there's a lot of folks that they think they got counted out, and you're not counted out. You still have wisdom. You have amazing knowledge and tremendous experience. And that's of great value. We have a lot of respect for our brothers and sisters out there. And so we speak words of respect to you all, especially the seniors in the audience, because it is you, your energy, your prayers and faith that has stood through time in this difficult moment. So thank you for your faithfulness. Well, that's it for today. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah to you. It's always our pleasure and our privilege to serve you. Thank you again for joining us. Good night.